Hello friends, welcome to Chess Frolics. We have an amazing problem composed by Schlogel and Minski, and here white is to play and win. There are not many pieces on the board, and white is a bishop and pawn to the good. The pawn has reached the 7th rank but and is about to be promoted, but is effectively blockaded by the black king, and the pawn is not even protected. The black king is not cornered, and if black can exchange one of the knights or the bishop, the exchange the pawn, it will surely be a draw. So if you are ready, let us start. Here white has three options. But first white has to protect the pawn. White can either still take the knight on d3 or move the knight to c6 and d6, protecting the pawn. If white takes the knight on d3, black will take the knight on b3. And now even knight f5, white will not be able to win here because knight is coming to d4, attacking the knight on f5. And if this knight gets exchanged, the pawn will be lost and it is a draw. So knight attacking d3 is not the correct move. So from the initial positions, knight has to either go to c6 or to g6 to protect the pawn. One of the moves is right. So let us try with c6. Knight coming to c6, protecting the pawn on e7. Here, black can take the bishop on b3. But if the bishop is taken, knight comes to f5, protecting the pawn, and at the same time threatening either knight to d6 check or knight to g7 check. The king will have to move and the pawn will queen. So this move by black is not correct. After knight c6, black moves the knight to e5, attacking the knight on c6, protecting the f7 square. In spite of this, if white gives a check from f7, knight will take the bishop and white will move the knight to f5, protecting the pawn again so that one of the knights can move. But the king moves out of that, and wherever the knight goes, knight on f7 will come to d6, protecting the queening square. So nc6 also does not work. So if nc6 does not work, knight to g6 is the correct move. But how is white to go about? After knight to g6, black has the same options. Knight taking b3, which as we have seen does not work. Here also, knight will come to f5, and now knight has the threat of giving a check from d6 or g7 and queening the pawn on the next move. So knight to b3 by black is incorrect. If knight goes to f4, attacking the pawn on g6, bishop goes to f7, the king moves, and the pawn queens. So again, nf4 is also not correct. So after knight g6, black moves the knight to e5, attacking the knight on g6 and protecting the f7 square, because bishop is threatening to give a check from f7 and queen the pawn. In spite of this threat, the best move for white is giving a check from f7. Knight has to take the bishop. White has lost an important piece, but that is a very important sacrifice which white has done. Now the knight on h6 comes to f5, protecting the pawn on e7. Here again, black can move the knight to h6, attacking the knight on f5. But knight to d6 and the king moves and the pawn queens. So after knight to f5, black moves the knight to e6. But if the knight comes to e6, white has an important move. King to c8 blocks the king's escape via d7 square. Wherever the knight moves, if this knight moves, knight to d6 is mate, and if the knight moves, this knight moves, then knight to g7 mate. So now knight to e6 is also incorrect. After knight to f5, black moves king to d7 so that the white king does not block its escape and somehow attack the pawn on e7 and exchange it. That would give a draw to black. But white has a very, very clever move here. White sacrifices the pawn. e8 queen. And black has to take it. Now the king can come and block the square d7 for the black king. And the king can come to either c7 or to c8, but one of the moves is correct. One will lead to a draw, the other will lead to white's victory. King coming to c8, and this is an incorrect move. Although the black king is boxed everywhere, knight comes to e6, and now white is in zugzwang. White has to make a move, after which white will lose control over the d7 square and the king will escape. So after black king takes the queen, white should play king to c7 and allow black to give a check from e6. And now come to c8, still keeping the d7 square under control. And now can you see the mate? If knight to e5, if this knight moves, if the knight on f7 moves, then knight to d6 mate. And if the knight on d6 moves anywhere, then knight to g7 mate. What a brilliant mate. I hope you all have enjoyed the problem. Thank you very much.